A book that absolutely fascinated me. It dealt with that part of her life that was Baby June with her older sister, Gypsy Rose Lee. The book is called Early Havoc, and it was a big bestseller. She's had over 42 major film roles. She's an absolutely fascinating lady. Please welcome Miss June Havoc. I don't even know where to begin with this lady because so many things have happened in her life. First, you know, the book I've always... Did they make a movie of this book?
No, not yet. Maybe never will. I know where to begin with you, Dinah. Let me get this off my chest. I was going to say bosom. I know we can't, but all right.
You can.
I would like to say, I live in the country, you know, and I'm out a lot on the road alone at night. I told you once, you've forgotten. I turned on the radio in the car, and there was that silky-voiced lady, and there's no mistaking you, no matter where I am, and it can be way out in my
Somebody
field.
was playing the records? Oh, good.
Oh, all the time?
Oh, I'm so glad.
All the time.
I'll make very good friends with that disc jockey. No, I want to talk about you. This book, I've always been crazy about it. They should make a movie of it because this is the day when they are telling all. You started the whole...
Well, it's a 15-year-old book, yes. 15 years ago, it was rather shocking.
Well, but everybody's telling everything now. The autobiographical, tremendous stories about revealing their own lives and everybody surrounding them. This book talks about you at the age of 2, and that you, it took us through your early years.
Yes, very early. It went on. Of course, I didn't do a thing till I was 2. I just sat around eating up the profits.
That's right.
And
couldn't earn a penny.
Not a penny.
But Baby June danced.
Then she was in the films. It reminded me, you know, Dinah being out here and doing a paper chase. That's why I'm all gussied up like this. Because on paper chase I'm playing a very dowdy lady, so I thought I'd go mad today. But when I first was in my first film, I was 3 years old. Mary Astor played my mother, and it was on the old Hal Roach lot. And then was B.B. Daniels and Harold Lloyd comedies.
Yeah.
And then there was 20-some-odd years between films. But that was it, the 23 years.
This was difficult for you to write, I'm sure, because you had to dredge up a lot of memories that were painful. Married at the age of 13.
That was pretty painful, yeah.
Yeah. Why did you marry at the age of 13? They took that up in the Broadway show.
Well, they
Gypsy.
didn't take that up. Now that we're getting to fables. Let's talk fact. I was at the last 8 bars of quite a few mediums. I was in the last 8 bars of radio and vaudeville, which was my school and my home, and my parents was dying. It was dead. And in order to get away and do anything with my life, and at the age of 13, I was the usual 35 because I had been working ever since I was a little bitty, and I wanted very much to learn, and I had never been to school a day in my life, and I didn't know anything, and I wanted to get out in the big world and learn how to find a way to be somebody or something, and the only way to do it was to get away from the act.
Yeah, from
which was failure, from Mom and the act.
And from Sister.
Well, Sister was there then. She wasn't there early on, but she was there then. And there was no other way. And I took a contract out on Little Boy in the Act. And
took a contract out?
Yes.
Took one out instead of sending
Poor
one.
little boy. And I married him and made my escape. And that was I was married in North Platte, Nebraska, where you could be 12 years old without parents' consent.
June.
And I marched up there, and I told the man in the green visor, he wasn't looking, and I was 12 and a half, and I said, I'm 23. And he didn't even look up. He just wrote it down, and here's your paper, and that's it.
You didn't even say, do you want to believe that?
No.
June, are there many misconceptions that you'd like to clear up about you and Gypsy and your mother?
Not particularly like to clear up. I don't...
but there are misconceptions. You said that was a fable, that Gypsy was a
yes,
fable.
it's true. Of course, Gypsy's a fable. It's a commercial wham-dam. It's a wonderful, great, big, glossy fable. But I'm dealing in my life mostly with fact. when you write, and there'll be 3 books. And I've written a lot. I've written 3 plays, and I write.
Yes.
I guess I'm a writer.
This is very well written.
Thank you. And
the second book will bring us up to now?
Up to 27.
Up to 27. Not to now, to 27.
Ooh. And
27.
then the 3rd book, I guess, will be the hardest one of all to write.
That'll be the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in dealing with from 27 to where I am now, and that was 50 years ago that I stood on my toes over there. I've been in show business over 50 years, Dinah. Isn't that funny? That's a ha.
Well, it's difficult when you realize all the stages that it's been through. Yeah. It's hard to realize.
You were laughing about between movies and everything. I'm at Fox now, you know, again, where I did 8 films. And I remember when I was kind of full of myself, going into wardrobe one day, and you remember they used to have the dummies of your body?
Yes.
My dummy said, June Havoc, bust, adequate.
June Havoc will admit that in Iran, they make wine differently. They shoot the grapes. Johnny Dark will claim his real name is Daytime, but the doctor delivered him during an eclipse. Jamie Farr will discuss the fact he doesn't mind wearing a dress. What's killing him are those military pantyhose. And Dottie West will find that her next hit record not only has a bullet, but a ransom note.
I'm here with June Havoc, who is a very colorful lady, has lived many lives, really, and is now living one that's absolutely formidable when you consider all of it. But before we get to the town you bought, this lady bought her whole town. I want to talk about the fact that you, after you got married at the age of 13, you went into a marathon, a dance-a-thon.
Well, went into 7 of them, actually.
7.
Over the period of time.
Why?
Well, I was hungry.
Yeah.
Good and hungry, and they fed you every 12 hours, 12 times every 24 hours. They'd wheel out this great big thing, and you'd stand up, keep your feet moving, and...
Had to keep your feet moving, never could stop.
Oh, no, never stop. And, oh, yes, the floor judge would be around there with that ruler, hurt. And you ate this god-awful food, Dinah.
I bet.
But you got very fat on it. And
with all the moving you were doing, they were never allowed to... How much rest were they allowed in the...
11 minutes out of an hour, to begin with, around 2,000 hours. They'd reduce it, until finally you were out there until you fell. But the main thing, I think, about the dance marathons themselves were that they were actually a very definite word for the time of the world. It was entertainment to watch someone more degraded than yourself.
Oh.
Because it was a time of degradation. I hope we're not headed toward this again.
And poverty. I mean, incredible poverty. And humiliation.
Poverty. Yeah. And humiliation. People could not get jobs. There simply weren't any.
Yeah.
There was no place to do anything like that.
When you saw they shoot horses, don't they?
Well, I knew the book, but they only used that as a background in that, Dinah. And the marathon itself is a powerful and enormous, huge creature who should be out there shaking all by itself and should be used as a major thing. Yeah. Every time I finished a marathon, I'd go back to New York and stand in chorus lines. You know, anything, never got picked for anything. Went back in another marathon, came back with a poor little boot-eyed curly. And they used to throw money at first. I was too proud to pick it up, but then I did. And I'd take it and go back and stand in line again. The last marathon I was in, when I knew I had to quit, I danced, this is in that book of records. I danced 3,750 hours. It's
3,000.
Well, yes, it's a funny thing to applaud in a way because
I know.
I had no choice.
No, that's right. Was that one you won?
Yeah, I won that, by golly.
Well, that record you had to.
You have the calluses about 1.5 inches on your feet. That big.
Bet.
And you used to love those, rub them with olive oil and hang on to them, because if your feet were numb, you felt better.
Yeah. Did you and Gypsy spend much time together as children?
No. As children, we didn't.
Later, did you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we were best friends.
That's lovely.
Up until the last. Well, we discovered each other after we were grown-ups. You know, it was funny. Mother staggered out into the big world with me when I was 2. And My sister had a good bunk and 3 squares, and it was all right. She was very loved where she was. And Mother took me only because I didn't talk at 2, but I stood on my toes and danced at 2. So that was money in the bank, and that's why she took me. And then I started to sing before I talked. I was waiting for a good part, you see.
Of course.
Sure.
Don't read anybody's lines. Read good lyrics, of course.
Sure, sing it.
Yeah.
And so then when that started to roll after the little movie thing, and I could go out, billed as the Hollywood baby, glorious words, in vaudeville, then we began to grow and grow until finally I was Baby June. Then I was Dainty June.
Dainty June.
And her newsboy songsters. Dainty June, registered U.S. Pat Off, the darling of vaudeville. Very important. That's when my sister joined us.
I see.
And that's when we were not very friendly. Because here was I, you know, there are 9 numbers.
The soloist.
Yeah. I was doing 7 of the 9 numbers. And you knew Gypsy and loved her.
Yeah,
I know you knew her well.
yeah.
She didn't sing or dance.
I did a picture with Gypsy.
Sure you did. And
Belle of the
vaudeville
Yukon.
was- yeah.
Neither one of us were too crazy about that picture.
Oh, I thought you were both wonderful.
Thank you.
I loved that picture. It was
Gypsy-
colorful, that picture.
Gypsy was an interesting woman. I feel well, perhaps I'm wrong. I should ask you, did she care what people thought about her? Because she was a very bright lady, and there were many images of Gypsy Rose Lee.
Yeah, well, you're on very tender territory. You intuitive thing, you. Well, it's true. I think that's part of what my new book is about. No. She built this phantasmagoria creature. And it was all smiles and clowning and laughter and glamour outside, and inside was very
Pain.
hard to take. And she had an ulcer inside an ulcer. She had
It's incredible.
things that hurt so badly. I'm talking about physical things that hurt as a result of living with somebody that she was pretending she adored. I wrote about that in the next book.
Oh, I didn't know about that, but I did know that when we came into makeup, just as you were talking, I remember one morning coming into makeup, and I wake up in the morning and I feel wonderful, and I came in, and Gypsy, whom I always thought was so pretty, sat in front of the mirror, and she said terrible things about herself to the mirror. And I couldn't believe it, that she really had such contempt for herself, and she was a beautiful and very articulate.
Oh,
was.
boy, was she. Extraordinary how you can have so much and so little, I suppose.
How much do we actually know about Gypsy? She was on television, she wrote books, she was in front of us all the time. How much do we really know about her? Do
You know
think?
very little. We lived together for years. I went back east after doing, 16 films here, and so and I went back to do a big musical. And at that time, she had that great big 26-room house, and all by herself in it.
All by herself?
All by herself in it. And it was during the war, and we couldn't get any servants. We couldn't get anybody down. Well, you know what it was like during that time. And we had 26 rooms to take care of. And there was a little pond, just about the size of this, and on one ghastly hot night, we were sitting in there, nude because no one could see us. And we had iced tea, and we had our feet up on the sides, and the only maid we could find at all dressed up, didn't do any work, but she was dressed up, and she went to the door. The doorbell was ringing, and we heard her say to the gentleman caller, "I am terribly sorry, but the girls is in the bird bath."
The girls is in the bird bath.
So we missed out on that fella.
Yeah. Darn it. Now, you've got to tell me about the town you bought.
Oh, Cannondale Crossing.
Cannondale Crossing. This lady decided she doesn't do things in a small way. She decided she liked this town, and she bought it.
Oh, what a place.
How did you buy it? I mean, how do you buy a
I
town?
hocked everything I owned, if that's a practical answer.
How many people live there?
Well, nobody actually lives there, actually. Cannondale has a pretty reasonable population, maybe a few hundred people, but Cannondale, which used to be the post office, and they took the post office away, and that was the death knell. Anyway, it's in the middle of Wilton, Connecticut. And it's on the Norwalk River, which is a beautiful river and pure now. And then
really? That's
one. The crossing sits in the middle with a tiny little railroad. Oh, the Danbury Spur line. And a tiny little depot that big.
Uh-huh.
And in there are all of these utterly bewitchingly beautiful, plain and stark American barn buildings.
My goodness.
One was a general store and a post office. And another one was where they pound and grind and pull and yank, you know, that kind of thing, and then put on the train. And the next one was a big yellow barn where they had tractors and things. And then they before that, they had the horse and buggies and the cows. And one is the mill on the waterfall. And that's where they milled everything. And that's where I'm going to be privileged to make my home now.
Yes.
In the mill on the waterfall.
We have some photos here. Tell us about
good.
them. Okay, now let's...
Oh, that is my newest acquisition. That's in the way of the bulldozers. It's an 1842 schoolhouse, and it is being moved. Oh, it's only a quarter of a mile away, onto Cannondale Crossing property, because it's going to be demolished if I don't. I got it for $1.
$1?
Yep, the town had to sell
That's
it.
a pretty good buy, honey.
Well, I think so. It's one
in
room.
today's market.
But by the time you finish moving it, it's going to cost much more
That's
than that.
what I figured.
Wow.
Now,
Now
what's
that
it?
was the general store and the post office. And I still have it still says gasoline 32 cents on those tanks.
Oh,
And
happy day.
that was where they
Yeah.
came and sat and chewed tobacco. Ah, that's the yellow barn. Oh, you can't see all of it. But in there are the cuddly animals and all this, every conceivable kind of stove, and antiques, collectibles. I have a weaver, I have a potter, and I have a gourmet food shop, and you can come and eat gorgeous food by the river and the
lovely.
big trees. Oh, I love it there.
What does the village mean to you now? What does it represent to you? Oh, look there.
Oh, there's Gonzi.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Who's
have to tell
Gonzi?
you about Gonzi. He's my main goose.
Your main goose? You mean there are other goose?
Oh, yes, there's a whole gaggle of geese, but Gonzi's the main guy. And when we heard that there was a whole bunch of beautiful African geese like that had been named and thrown into the Sound, we got a whole bunch of us together who care about such things, and we called it Operation Goose Lift. And we went down there to the Sound with all of our stuff, and we corralled these goose people. And we put them in burlap bags, which is what you're supposed to do, and you tie them the neck. And Tana Sabilio, my beloved child, was sitting in the back of the station wagon, hanging on to all these geese, going and then honking. You could not hear yourself think the honking. They all want to know where they were going, you know, naturally.
Well,
And so,
they've just been lifted out of the water and put in a gunny sack.
of course, and by a stranger, Dinah.
That's right.
the rub.
Or the worst part.
So I was stopped by a red light, and I'm waiting, and a motorcycle pulled up next to me with a man and a woman in the helmets sitting there, and they're listening to... I could see they were afraid to look at me for fear of what they might see. And suddenly they looked over, and I felt I had to say something, so I said to them, geese. And the man said, hope so.
It better be.
Remember...
That song, if I remember, was written by Peter Allen and Carol Bear Sager, isn't it?
And sung beautifully,
Oh,
and
thank
played
you.
beautifully by
John
John,
Rodney
yes.
does. Oh, yay! John on the band.
Where's the John in the Gong Show?
Of course. It's not the same thing.
It's the same John.
Oh, that I want to talk about. Well, I've got Jamie Farr here and June Havoc and Johnny Dark. And standing over there is a lovely lady that I haven't had a chance to talk with, but I tell you, she's from close to my hometown. Her name is Dottie West, and she sings at the Grand Ole Opry or at Carnegie Hall with equal ease.
It's wonderful to get Dinah Shore's Worry Bee.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Dottie. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. Come
So
back
happy
soon.
to finally meet you. I
Me
really
too.
wanted to.
McMinnville to Winchester. I mean, it's
Had to come a long ways, but
All right.
just be 40 miles apart.
Johnny, thank you. Give my love to everybody up there, will you?
I sure will, no problem.
It's 3 times the fun on The Odd Couple, starring Tony Randall and Jack Klugman. Don't miss all the hilarity of New York's most mismatched bachelor roommates at 6 and 7 weeknights and at 11:30 p.m. Mondays through Thursdays, right here on 11 Alive.